Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be unto you and peace be unto us all. My name is Haroon Khan and I'll be your host. This is a new program and it's called Citizen Live. So back here is the Masjid Al Jamia Vancouver. This was formed in 1963 and this was put together by my father, Ali Khan, and a small number of people. It's really a handful of people, but they were diverse and from all over the world, and that holds true today. This is known as the Musafir Masjid, the Travelers Masjid. People from all over the world, and especially those that come in from Vancouver from all points. It's a special place. We're very diverse in terms of our congregants. We are at the forefront of activism, of social and political engagement. We've worked tirelessly on interfaith work. We also do a lot of work to help those in need. Our brothers and sisters, no matter what their faith that are experiencing homelessness, addiction, loneliness. You know, this is a home, this is a shoulder to lean on. So that we have two floors. So this is the main prayer hall. There's another overflow prayer hall downstairs. We can accommodate up to 500 on both floors. During Ramadan, which is the month of fasting, we accommodate many people here for all prayers year-round. But for Ramadan especially, we have an iftar program, and that iftar program is for the entire 30 days. So people can come free of charge and have a very substantial meal to open their fast. And that happens at sunset. And so for those of you who are not familiar with Ramadan, it's the month of fasting for purification. 30 days you go without food from dawn to dusk. You don't drink water, you don't eat, and it's a spiritual cleansing. So it's a very special thing. We have the food each and every day through our tireless volunteers, and it's a real staple of our community. And one other thing that we do, that we've been doing for well over 20 years, is a thing called Ramadan Spirit. Ramadan Spirit is where we go to the Lower East Side, and that's on a place called Main and Hastings. It's a pretty lonely corner. It's a place where people are suffering from addiction, from homelessness, from desperate times. And we're able to, along with other charitable groups and other supportive places, to go and give a comfort, to give a helping hand, a warm, hot, and nutritious meal in their times of need. This is a thing called the Clear Quran. This is an English translation. It's modern, and it's available to you free of charge to anybody who requests it. So if you look at our credits or visit us online or email us, we'll send you a copy of this Clear Quran English translation free of charge to anybody who wants it. I've literally grown up in this place. It's more than just a spiritual home, it's home. And it's been the spiritual home for Vancouver's Muslim community for over 60 years. As we go along on this show, we'll be coming back to this place and to places all around our city, our province, our country, and around the world, to show you places of worship, places of where people come together, whether it's a sports stadium, a concert hall, in nature. We will bring the world to you. Our first guest today will be Amna Shah. Amna is the elected representative for Surrey City Centre for the province of British Columbia, Canada. She is she's made history as the first Muslim MLA and the first female. So she holds a double distinction for achieving this feat, and she's only getting started. Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be unto you. Welcome, my name is Haroon Khan, and this is Citizen Live. I'd like to introduce our first guest. This is Amna Shah. She is the first female Muslim MLA for Surrey, and we're excited to have her here, and she is our first guest.
Thank you so much for having me, Haroon. Assalamu alaikum to you as well.
Wa alaikum assalam. So let's get right into it. This election was the most hotly contested election in BC's history. You've gone from a journey as someone who worked with the NDP and you worked with Minister Callan, I believe, and in the Ministry of Housing. You've had experience with the Surrey Food Bank. And tell me about you. Tell me about your family and where you come from and where you're going.
Yeah, so humble beginnings, actually, Haroon. So my family and I immigrated to Canada from Malaysia when I was just a teenager. And our first stop was Ontario, and that's where we spent just under a couple of years before we decided that British Columbia was going to be our forever home. And so just our family, we knew nobody in this country, and we packed our bags, moved once again all across from the east to the west coast, and decided to make a life here for ourselves. And so throughout my life, I mean, I finished school here. Yeah. I, did research here. I had the amazing opportunity to work with government MLAs, with government ministers, and also had, luckily, the time to be able to also do some community service on the side as well. And I think that's been a bit of a constant in my life ever since I was in high school, I would say. Great. And so that's just a little snippet about where I come from.
So what is your current role in government?
So I've been appointed to be the Parliamentary Secretary for Mental Health and Addictions, and also as the Deputy Whip. So two very different roles. One's on the caucus executive, and one is obviously housed within the Ministry of Health. Okay. So my parliamentary secretary role will really involve ensuring that we're able to deliver services to people who require services as they pertain to mental health and addictions, and ensuring that we have the adequate amount of treatment beds that we need to get people the help that they need when they need it.
So public service is a huge thing. It's a responsibility that a lot of people don't take lightly, and I know you don't. The election itself really showed the difference of opinion and very extreme feelings on both ends of the spectrum. You have a Conservative Party which really had next to nothing in terms of seats and supports to being within a hair of forming government. This is a lesson for the current BC government, which is headed by the NDP and its leader David Eby. And there were a lot of areas in government and policy and how things were spent that caused consternation, that caused upset. And it's a new page now. So it's a new page, it's a new term. We have 4 years to really make a difference for the better, for not just every British Columbian, but to also resurrect the ideals of the party. And but before we get into that, I was at the swearing-in ceremony for the new government in Victoria, and I was quite moved by the tribute to John Horgan. So John was the Premier of BC. He headed the NDP. He had a terrible battle with cancer and sadly passed away. So he was a great leader, and he galvanized the province in ways that really reflect what it is now, a very bustling, very busy place. What's your thoughts on the legacy of John Horgan?
Yeah, so it's hard to define John even in a very lengthy tribute to his legacy, but what I can tell you is that the impact that he's had on me as an individual, somebody who followed politics throughout my life, but have never really seen a leader like John, because he had the common touch. Yes. He had the compassion which he exuded. It's not often that you're in a role of leadership and bogged down by all of the responsibilities that you have and are still able to shine through all of that. And I think how he was able to do that was because he had this genuine feeling and compassion and wanting to help British Columbians, regardless of what their political beliefs were, regardless of how they perceived things. And his presence, even in a room, was one that made people feel safe. And so for me, I keep thinking about him saying that there's lots of new Democrats out there who just don't know it yet. And it's true, because his legacy brought this province together. And so even if people who are not traditionally BC NDPers could say, hey, I'm voting for John Horgan because I think he is best to lead this province through, whether it be through crises, whether it be through health emergencies, because he got it. He understood.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So now contrast with the current leader, David Eby. Now David, again, came from a social justice background, was a lawyer, did a lot of advocacy work for the homeless and addictions. A lot of policies that were put in place by the previous iteration of the NDP government in BC, legalization of street drugs, a lot of areas where a lot of spending went out of control. What are your thoughts now in the new term, and how can you learn from the mistakes that were made then?
So, I think David's intention has always been to guide us through the different crises that we found ourselves in. Let's not forget we went through a very difficult time during the pandemic when all of us were very socially isolated from each other as per requirements to keep us all safe in the long term. And coming out of that, seeing the global trend of inflation and the hard times that families have had to face. But what I truly appreciate about David's leadership is that he's ready to take bold action. And it doesn't matter what type of issue we're talking about, he wants to get things done. And so along the way, the decisions that have been made in consultation with health professionals, with the public health officer, with stakeholders in our communities. And yes, we tried what others maybe did not want to try, because our intention and his intention was fully to see change in our communities. Now, given we are where we are, the public gave us a mandate to do better, and we've listened to what they've had to say to us at the doors, the issues that are important to them, that will be important in the next 4 years, and what the commitment that I've given to all of my constituents is that we're going to work on those infrastructure projects. We're going to speed up things where we can speed them up, and we're really going to take an approach which is centered into on the ground work. Change that you can actually see in your community. So
BC in and of itself is an incredibly diverse place. You have people from all over the world. And one of the things that people have is a strong sense of faith. And you have faith that represents many cultures, many traditions. How does the role of faith impact you as an individual, and how we can respect the diversity of faiths in this province, and how we can move forward together?
Yeah, so I'm a faithful Muslim, as you know. I've grown up in a family in which faith was very important to all of us, and that, again, has been a constant, and it ties into some of the reasons why I serviced my community in a number of different ways, because to me it's a responsibility rather than just something that you do in your leisurely time. And so faith has played a huge role in some of the decisions that I've made in my life, especially with my professional life, my free time. And I can tell you safely that the most joy that I've gotten is as a result of those decisions. And so being a Muslim in this sector, in this field, if you want to call it, of course it's new to see a new Muslim female MLA, but I think it's long overdue. I make no reservation in telling people that the Muslim community here in this province, there's no shortage of skilled, talented, young, old professionals who have a wealth of experience under their belt. And it's about time that that they also be in positions that are elected, whether it be municipal, provincial, or federal.
Yeah,
across
the board. One of the things that we've looked at is the role of the food banks. Mm-hmm. And you, before you really entered politics, you've made your mark at the Surrey Food Bank. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that experience, and how do food banks help communities, and what can people do to support them?
Food banks support families that really need the most support. And the Surrey Food Bank here in Surrey has done an amazing job for decades supporting families through their not just their food distribution, but also their ancillary services. Yeah. And they've been a staple in our community, which is what drew me to the Surrey Food Bank in the first place. Is I saw some folks that I knew who had spent some time volunteering at the Surrey Food Bank, and the type of environment that is there, solely committed to helping those who need it. So, I mean, I started with some time there, really getting to know what the food bank was about, and many years later, I mean, I sat on the board and really tried to transform some of the ways in which the food bank played a role as being a staple in the community. Yeah. And what that means is really being able to service more people in Surrey, service individuals who may have barriers towards actually accessing food, even food from a Surrey food bank, and also connecting people to other services in the community, so that it's a bit more holistic and it's not just about food distribution. So my time with the Surrey Food Bank has been one of immense learning, because the governance model that the board is supposed to adhere to has really, taught me the importance of why governance is actually important when it comes to the success of an organization.
Absolutely. What are the priorities of the government and you specifically to really make it a better place, and to allow people to get that hand up to live a better life?
Yeah, I'm glad that you said hand up, because that's what we usually say. So it involves partnerships, partnerships between governments, nonprofit organizations, different levels of government. These are complex issues that need multi-pronged approaches. I know that nonprofit service providers on the ground really know what's best in terms of how to provide a great service model to communities, which is exactly why government partners with nonprofit organizations to provide services on the ground. We look at organizations like the Surrey Urban Mission, serving Surrey in itself, who at this time do require more support, and our commitment to them is that we're going to give them that, because they're the face of the service on the ground, and people trust faces that are reliable, that are always there. And so we don't, being an MLA now and being in government, we certainly don't claim to have all of the answers, but we seek guidance from our partners and our stakeholders as well to see what is the best path forward. Diversity is huge here in Surrey, especially, and so the need for those services and innovative ways in which we deliver those services are top of mind. Being a director on the Surrey Food Bank board, that was one of our biggest questions that we used to ask ourselves every single time we met. It was an integral part of our work. And we realized, for example, the importance of providing halal protein sources to our clients, and we expanded on that to ensure that they had a steady supply of halal protein as well. Great. So being conscious and being very ready to change at a moment's notice based on the changing conditions around us is absolutely important, and I think in government we can actually do that a bit better.
Perfect. Yeah. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with Amna Shah. Thank you. Welcome back. We're here with Amna Shah, the MLA for Surrey City Centre. Amna, you've taken over from Bruce Ralston. So Bruce was a long-term MLA for many, many years, and I've known Bruce personally, great guy, and you've got some big shoes to fill. So being an MLA, you've got a constituency office, you're now in the legislature, you're splitting your time between Victoria and Surrey. How's your time? Run me through what a day looks like for you.
Yeah, we've already gotten to work. It's incredibly busy. I just want to take a moment, though, to really acknowledge Bruce Ralston's service to our community.
Yeah.
He's been a mentor to me, and just taking a look at his legacy and his work in the community, I certainly have big shoes to fill, literally and figuratively.
That's true. Yeah, he's a big man. Yeah.
But the life of an MLA, not that I've not seen it from the back end of things, but experiencing it on the front end is exceptionally different. But it's go from morning, noon, night, and the way I perceive it is it's a 24/7 job, and you have to be ready at all times to put in the work. So, I mean, of course, the legislation, the work that goes around that, and being in Victoria is one component of it, of the important work, but also the work in the community is equally, if not more, important. And one of my main goals and objectives really is to bring our community together.
For women and girls from anywhere and everywhere, the inspiration of you as a young woman, as someone who's come to British Columbia, you've contributed. How do you feel you can best mentor people, no matter where they're from, who they are, what their faith is? As British Columbians, as Canadians, as human beings, how can we uplift?
So, you know, the commitment that I made to myself and the work in public service is incredibly important.
It is.
And so somebody who's, let's say, interested in encompassing or embracing an opportunity to leadership, I think should always keep that at the back of their head.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which role, whether it be the role of an MLA or a city councillor or even a team leader in an organization. It's really the same concept. And I know there are so many women and girls out there who want to take up positions of leadership because they deserve it. They've worked very hard. And so I encourage, of course, women in my community as an individual who is very accessible to everybody to reach out. To me, first of all, I think that's one of the best ways in which I can help mentor
We'll make that happen.
Individuals. Absolutely. But I think the other piece is knowing that everything is possible in some way, shape, or form.
Isn't that the truth?
It certainly is the truth. I mean, I would have never thought many years ago that this is where I would land one day. I didn't. It was a natural progression of roles and responsibilities which brought me here. And the one thing that I've always done is embrace every opportunity. I have never said no to an opportunity. And I hope that when women and girls see that, okay, well, she never thought that she could be where she is either. And so life takes you through many different paths, and every path is special in its own way. This is just part of my journey for myself, but more importantly, this is a part of a journey for our community. And my main concern is what can I do to just make my community better. That's it.
A lot of communities are facing the scourge of addiction, and people just can't find beds. And so for a continuum of care, we had a thing called Riverview Hospital. Riverview Hospital was very well known when people acted out. They were placed in involuntary care. And during the election, both John Rustad and David Eby became proponents of more involuntary care. When a person is in danger to themselves, to the people around them, to the community in which they live in, they're essentially sanctioned and they're placed into treatment. How do you think that will roll out moving forward?
So in terms of involuntary care, of course, that is based on the premise that we need to provide specialized care to individuals who pose maybe a danger to themselves and also to community members. So I think it's a very important part of the work that I will do in collaboration with the Minister of Health. But our expectation is it's a really care-based model. So it's not that you just lock people up, put them away.
And I think that's the misconception of it. That boom, you're going to be in prison without trial. It's essentially a care-based solution that will enable them to, in stages, get back into the line.
Yeah, and so during the campaign, we had David Eby announced that there will be centers that will open up across the province to provide this type of care to specific individuals. But I think there's also a need for collaboration within the Ministry of Public Safety and local community teams that police neighborhoods and that also make sure that individuals who are on the streets are able to access services. So again, a complex issue, but one that requires collaboration both between government, nonprofits, and also community workers as well.
So you need to be fueled for for the role that you have in government as just living a life in BC. It's an active place. You've got every kind of climate here, but you need to fuel yourself. What fuels you? Are you a coffee person? Are you a chai person? What's your what's your go-to?
Well, coffee is huge for me,
There you go.
and chai in the evening, I can't miss it.
Okay.
So I've consumed a lot of coffee in the last few years.
That would be that goes with the territory. Rocket fuel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And now I really can't go a morning without it. So I do have to start off with coffee.
Yeah.
But oddly enough, I really like cheese. Okay. So cheese sticks throughout the day actually are a bit of my happy place.
Some energy, yeah.
Yeah, they give you a bit of energy, but I think you always need to find that one thing that you can kind of sink your worries into.
Yeah, sure, why not?
And for me, it's a block of cheese.
A block of cheese. There you go. Get some of that cheddar.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go. Excellent. And so Malaysia, like different foods. What's your favorite food from your home country and here in BC?
Yeah. So laksa is probably one of my favorite Malaysian dishes. I actually make a very good laksa as well.
I'm going to call you on that.
You should.
There we go.
And but Malaysian food you can't go wrong with. It's the perfect balance of spice and dairy as well, and mainly coconut milk, so I guess we wouldn't call that dairy. But it's one of the best cuisines, I would argue, on this planet. And I personally like seafood a lot. So my favorite is crab.
Okay, well, we got plenty of it over here. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, if you ever know where a great seafood buffet is, please let me know.
You're on.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Okay. Amna Shah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and best of luck.